Welcome back to the Boomer Boys podcast. This is me and Bryson back today with another episode. Today we got a lot in store for you guys. We're going to go over the Oklahoma Media Day takeaways and then the early fall camp, just intel of what we've all seen and what we've heard. So let's have a good episode right here and let's get after it.
Let's go. Man, you could taste the season, and there's been a lot of things that have happened here recently, and there's a lot to dive into. So I'm excited, let's go right into it with OU Media Day and kind of what we learned. I'll let Tanner start us off with some things that we heard.
Yeah, there's a lot of confidence in the building in Norman, and I think that's pretty obvious to a lot of people in the building and even the nation. I think early on into kind of coming up into the preseason, a lot of people are kind of sleeping on Oklahoma. And I think the closer we get to the season, a lot of people are like, okay, let's pump the brakes on the looking past the Oklahoma part. So I think the overall confidence level in the building is just oozing out of everyone. The team, like everyone's starting to notice the confidence in each other, the coaching staff, and just the whole building in general.
No, yeah, I think that is a big difference, coming from like last season. We had a phenomenal season, but we had lots to prove, we would have went out there and proved it. There was multiple times where we heard like, hey, we got to the playoffs. We didn't win the playoff game and stuff like that. And so I think the confidence to go get our first year playoff win, is in store for this team, and that really, with that confidence really hinges from the depth. You see a lot of people commenting on the depth and how much depth we have, and it really is a major theme that we saw.
Yeah, and you see a lot of people, and you see coaches and players are starting to, they brag on the players, of course, but you got like guys that are like Reggie Powers. He's shouting people out. He's saying, hey, he's going to be a big role in this defense. He's going to get a lot of meaningful snaps. I think that's a great thing, especially in the SEC, to have is depth. With the way college football is, your guys are going to get banged up. You look at John last year, you look at X, you look at the whole running back room is always getting banged up, it feels like, and then receivers. So that's something that is so like a security blanket for Oklahoma, I think, is our depth is being noticed, and the coaches are like, hey, we got guys at every position we can throw out there on a Saturday and feel comfortable about.
I think that is a big deal. Our depth this year, not to kind of get into too much, but the running back room depth, that we've seen, the line of scrimmage offense and defense, which is kind of like our next topic, with the line of scrimmage, we had, Brent Venables had said we have like 9 guys that we can go out there and we wouldn't miss a beat, on the offensive line. And then really, I think a big key this past media day is the defensive line depth. We lost R. Mason, we lost D. Williams, we lost G. Baby, and then Marcus Strong went to Clemson. We lost a lot of guys on that defensive line. But even hearing it, they're expecting PJ to go out there and do his thing and stuff like that.
I'll comment on this. Nigel. Dude, Nigel is a monster. He's like 6'4", 305. Like the pictures of him and just hearing the guys talk about Nigel, like he's going to be a big centerpiece of that defensive line, that front seven.
No, yeah. And I think that has been a big key when we see the media day takeaway. It seriously is that this defense, we've got a lot of guys who are ready to prove something and need to prove something. And we got a lot of depth on both of those, and then kind of going on forward to our next topic, I think the offense has a higher ceiling this year.
I do too. We've talked about this in past episodes, but just like it's year 2 with the Arbuckle experience. Year 1 was, I think was very vanilla. Not saying that in a bad way of the offense. It's just you're a first year play caller in the SEC. That's pretty intimidating. You had a banged up quarterback. You have a banged up offensive line. There was not a lot of factors that kind of helped us in that situation. But you just look at the buzz around Norman and the nation. Everyone is very high on this offense, the capability and like the potential we have in this offense, with John, healthy John was a Heisman front runner in September. Absolutely. After the Michigan game last year, everyone's like, dude, they're legit. This team is legit on offense. And, breaks his thumb, and it's like everyone just completely forgets about how everyone was hyped on John, And the running back room, you hear so much people just raving about the running back room and how deep it is. You got guys like X, was banged up periodically. Torrey was banged up periodically, and you got new guys coming in. And I think that's so promising to us, and the ceiling is so much higher.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think realistically with the guys that we brought in, with the depth that we have, this is a completely different, offense.
Yeah.
When you look at it, you retain the right guys,
Hmm.
as far as off to the line depth.
Yep.
Everybody, we're good.
Yes.
Um, then we went out there and got really good backup receivers, retained all of our, the receivers that we needed to retain.
Mhm.
And then quarterback, I feel like a lot of it goes to 10, and 10's healthy. 10 has just been put on muscle.
Bro,
Look,
dog.
and I think, we didn't put this in our segment, but we have a new strength. And we were talking about this earlier. We have a new like strength work.
Mhm.
Um, and it is night and day. These
Oh,
players are just, I mean,
and that's what, watching some other podcasts, they talk about like, oh, don't buy into the fall like media, like all these guys put on 30 pounds, these guys, like I mean, I know the propaganda is there, but like, dude, we got some guys that just look different. You look at John, I mean, just hats off to John. He's completely transformed his body. He looks like a freaking middle linebacker out
yeah.
there. You look at Nigel. Nigel is a 305, but it ain't a chunky 305.
We
It's
mentioned
muscle.
Haddon
Yeah,
earlier.
just a
Haddon,
monster.
true freshman running back. And then look at PJ. We saw that video of
My
PJ. Hopefully it's on the screen right
Yeah,
now.
he's a
PJ
monster.
is a
And
monster,
then you
dude.
just look at PJ. You got PJ on one side, then you can go Danny on the other.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just unbelievable. The freak athletes that we have.
Wine's gonna have, man.
Yes.
Wine's really stepped up as a leader.
And I think that's something that is so promising again with the strength staff is like you get guys, and that's a good recruiting pitch to have. You look at PJ when he comes in, PJ, he's a great looking guy, 5-star recruit. Um, like look what we've done with him in 3 to 4 years, like how we've transformed his body. Like he looks apart.
No,
He already
absolutely.
looked apart when he came in,
Absolutely.
but now like you put him up against the best tackles in the SEC in the nation, like he's going to fit right in. He's going to be a handful for a lot of tackles in this nation.
Absolutely. I think that is a big deal. And it kind of like leads me to our next topic and debate is after that media day, the propaganda, are we buying OU as legitimate contenders?
Yes, I firmly believe that. I've talked to a lot of people in the discords, people on TikTok lives. We just have conversations. We bounce back and forth. They're like, "Are you really sold on your guys' season this year?" I was like, "Guys, I was sold on the season last year, and I'm 10 times more confident going into this
Yeah,
year."
no, yeah.
And I think I truly am. But you can take all the bias out of the conversation. I truly do think you look at the roster that we had last year and the people we've retained and the people we've brought in. I am buying every piece of stock into this OU team because it is just it it's
You have
stacked.
to.
And you do. You look at the 10-2 season you had last year with the losses you guys had. We had Texas. You didn't have a healthy quarterback, and the so-called just Texas beaters at the time. Like you held them 23 points with a punt return.
Punt return at the end. It was a 7 point game,
Yeah,
6 point game
like
going into the fourth
yes,
quarter.
like
A pick six or a pick and then punt. I'm like, dude,
and it's you look
no.
at that loss, you look at the Ole Miss loss. I mean, it was a banger of a game. It started
Insane
slow, but
game.
we start picking up. Your
Except
offense,
70
yeah,
rushing
yeah. You
touchdown.
find your groove. So like it's not like you had bad losses. You can say that Texas loss was bad, and it was not a good loss, but just under the circumstances, it's like not a fair game. What I
Mhm.
mean? So yeah, I genuinely am like buying all the stock in Oklahoma. So to answer or ask you that question, like what's your thoughts? Are you buying? Are you sold on this team?
Absolutely. I think right today, kind of like or this past media day and the fall camp have really reassured me.
Hmm.
I have the same take. I'm a big OU fan, and I'm, maybe one of them sunshine pumpers when you look at it. But seriously, though, there's a lot to not. You can't not get excited
Yeah.
about this team. Just hearing the confidence,
Hmm.
this team is SEC ready. Like it's SEC ready.
Yeah.
You could tell the difference between our program now
Hmm.
and then our program 5 years ago, and it's
Yeah.
completely different. In the aspect of these guys look like dudes,
Yes.
like
Yes.
monsters, and I like, look at it. I'm like, who the heck are we?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who the heck are we?
Yeah.
Because
And that's the thing, like we talked about this prior, like early on in the BV experience, it was like, dude, this is what we can become. Like this
yeah,
is this is the vision.
yeah,
This is what we're going for. And now it's like we're there. Like,
Yeah.
like
Oh,
we're
for
there,
sure.
and it's not like the hopes of like, man, I hope we make it to the playoffs, or I hope we have a winning season. It's like those are the expectations,
It
and,
has to be.
and I think that the fans, we are finally getting there of like, hey, this is who we are. But the players and stuff live it. They're not satisfied. Like you see podcasts and like interviews, like yeah, we made the playoffs, like congratulations, we didn't win nothing in the playoffs. And those players are taking that. Like John said that he said, yeah, we got a banner up, but like it don't mean anything.
No,
Like we
yeah,
made it.
yeah. I love it, dude.
You're like hats off. Like
Sign it up. Yeah,
it's a great accomplishment to making the playoffs. Only 12 teams make the
absolutely.
nation, but like those guys aren't content with just making the playoffs.
Which makes me so much more happy, happier when I look at this. Like we have something to prove. We have the pieces. These
Hmm.
guys have an edge, and a chip on their shoulder, knowing that hey, we have the keys. I look around the room and I see David Stone over there. That guy's a top 15 pick.
Yep.
That guy's the number one defensive lineman
Hmm.
in the country.
Yeah. 100%.
So let's go do it now.
Yeah.
Why not us? Why not now? And
Yes.
so I'm really hyped. We're both really hyped about the fall camp and the media day. This team is going to do some damage.
Mhm.
But realistically, the most surprising room is the running back room.
It is. It really. And
Take this one over.
we were talking about this before we started filming. We haven't had 1,000-yard rusher since Eric Gray in 2022.
Yep.
Like you sit there and think like, man, we haven't. You should look at it. Not any knocks on the past running backs. It's just we haven't had that dude where it's like, okay, we know if it's 3rd and 4, we can run inside zone, and this guy's gonna go get it. We haven't had that guy. It feels like. And I feel confident in Torrey and X. I truly do. I think Torrey showed flashes last year. It's like this kid's going to be a freak. You look at the Temple game,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, there we go. Like we're starting to, and I think a lot of it does come up front. If you can't block anyone up front, you're not going to have any lanes to run through.
Correct.
But in the same breath, like X, but you take out X's long, like he's his 70-yard touchdown run against Ole Miss. I don't remember a play last year. It's like, hey, we broke one. We had a breakaway at the tailback position. We had a breakaway play. But that's surprising me the most is the intel we've got. Like, dude, the running back room is shining right now, and I think that's hats off to like Vin. I think they take it personal. Like, if I have people that are like, oh, there's a question mark in the tailback room, and I'm a tailback. Man, I'm gonna work my butt off to prove everyone wrong.
Seriously, dude, I think that is just the most surprising in the aspect of last year we couldn't run the football. This year we're under center,
Yeah.
different things, But realistically, I think the backs that we have this year and the coach, it really falls on the coach.
Mm-hmm.
I really love what Dylan's doing.
Mm-hmm.
I think he had a really good media day in the aspect. I don't know if any of y'all didn't get the chance. Basically, the players, the running backs, are graded on a score, and they had to get over. I think it was 90.
Yeah,
over a 90 to even see the field.
Yep.
And that kind of leads me into the most surprising running back one was actually Abam.
Mm-hmm.
Was
Lloyd.
Lloyd Abam, correct?
Yeah, he is.
He was consistently graded around 95, 96. Dylan had really high praise for him, saying that he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes, and if he does make mistakes, he doesn't make the same mistakes.
Yeah.
And so I think that is a guy that I'm personally looking forward to. Is Abam. You obviously have Xavier Robinson. You also have Torrey Blaylock coming back. If we can get both of those guys healthy.
Yeah, and then add Hatton onto the whole mix. What we were talking about. Guys, like you hear Isaiah Satania talk about him. He's like, this guy's one of the fastest guys on the team, if not the fastest guy on the team. And for Satania to be saying that, and he was proclaimed one of the fastest guys in the nation, if he's saying that, and Hatton, his measurables are 6'1", 230, and he's getting called the fastest guy on the team. And he's a true freshman. You just think he's probably 18, 19 years old. That is a monster. And so I could, and this kind of our neck, kind of going off of this, is there a clear RB1? And in my honest opinion, I don't think there is,
I don't think there is.
Not in a bad way. Not saying we don't have anyone to be the RB1.
It's just they're all so talented.
Yeah, and Dylan said that. He said, I could throw any of them out there and have every bit of confidence in the world in any of them. And I think that's so promising because if you're a running back coach, a running back coach is just going to be saying that to say it. If he's saying that, he means it. He's not going to throw out that propaganda and it not happen and be like, hey, what about this? So for him to say that, be like I can throw any of those guys out there and we won't miss a beat. And I think that's so promising And so I don't think there's an RB1 right now. I think Lloyd's kind of separated himself in the media and all the media day talks. Like, hey, he's going to be the guy that takes the first snap. But also, I, I'm I'm content with any of them going out there.
Yeah, seriously. My only one concern is, we talked about having that bell cow back,
Hmm.
what, do you think that we could use multiple backs?
Oh,
Do you think
mhm.
that just in terms of progression and momentum and stuff like that, are you okay with going out and using 3 to 4 backs on a game, every single game?
You know, I think that's a tough question. And to answer it, yes and no.
Hmm.
I think yes, in a sense of I think those four guys that we mentioned can get it done and would get it done. But in the same breath, no, because say if we send X out there, right, and X is just toting the rock, why take X out? You know,
Why
and
take it
and,
out?
and, and I understand, giving breathers, personnel and all that different stuff. But like, if it isn't broke, why are we trying to fix it?
That's what.
Kind of that deal.
So that's going into it. We want to be as clear and honest with you. A concern that's really not a concern, but it is a concern, is having a running back room that is too deep, fighting over the rock.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm interested to see how Dylan's going to play it
mhm,
because I'm not trying to badmouth former coach or anything like that.
mhm.
I don't think that was one of DeMarco's strengths. I think DeMarco's had a lot
100%.
a lot of strengths, but when we have Torrey, we have X, we have multiple other Javante Barnes, stuff
Mhm.
like that in that running back room. X would have a good, and stuff
Yeah,
like that. It
yeah,
didn't seem like he was just evening out. And so I do
yeah.
really appreciate the grading and stuff like that. And be
Oh, yeah.
clear and honest with us, you got to be over 90, to even
Yes.
play out there and stuff like
Hmm.
that. I guess we're so spoiled in the
Hey.
aspect right now that
Mhm.
we're even like, are we too loaded? Are we too loaded?
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about, but in regards to actual, production on the field,
Mhm.
you want 1 to 2 guys and go get it done.
Yeah.
We got 4.
Mhm. And it's such a good thing. But like we're talking about concerns, like in today's college football, if they don't, I mean, if you ain't playing, they're hitting the portal.
They're hitting the
And
portal.
not saying it, and I'm not hoping any of our guys. I pray none of our guys do hit the portal if they don't get the snaps they think they deserve. But like, I can't imagine coaching in this day and age of college football. Like, you got to keep everyone
There's so
happy, and
yeah,
it's and props. I was thinking this. We didn't talk about this before. I was thinking about this before the podcast. Like, I saw a picture of David. So I'm like, dude, that guy stuck it out. Like, how often do you see a guy realistically stick out like a college program? And I know he hit the portal, but like
yeah, he
we
hit the
got
portal,
we
came
got him.
back. Yeah,
But
no,
like
that
you
was a big day.
like PJ, like PJ's a prime example. PJ had so many opportunities to hit the portal. Like, man, I'm not getting
Not
snaps.
playing,
I'm a
yeah.
5 star. I haven't gotten to play as much as I thought I was going to play, and he's sticking out. And
I
that's why I
think he's
think
gonna emerge this year.
yes,
He's
and I
gonna
think
emerge.
and I think that is such the beautiful part and the romantic part about football is the player development. And I think that's a big testament on Oklahoma right now is he trusts Oklahoma's personnel. He trusts the coaching staff. Like, hey, I've developed this much. This is my year to shine. And I think that's so promising. Like what I was saying, the romantic part about college football, that's very few guys that you see do that.
Absolutely. There's a lot that we talk about the running back room, and realistically, I think we could both agree that that was one of the rooms that has surprised us.
Hmm.
Even looking at the spring game, which I know it is just a spring game, the running back room was night and day different.
Yeah. Hmm.
It felt like Xavier and Tori have more confidence now.
Hmm.
Tori's a little banged up right now, so we're hoping that he can get back to 100% healthy because he
Yeah.
is a stud.
Yeah.
But that was probably one of the more surprising, areas of this football team now going into the a big, 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 big area would be the offensive line.
Yep.
This right here, in my opinion, is going to make or break this
Yep.
season.
Hmm.
How well they perform, and I'll start this one out was they were the biggest question mark coming into media day. Their biggest question mark coming into this year.
Yeah.
We weren't able to run the football,
Yep.
and we weren't able to give Mateer time to throw the ball,
Hmm.
but he showed signs of progression, and just hearing everybody talk, I know Fasusi was named, and they're saying that he's going to be just
The freak.
a
Yeah.
freak.
Yes. And I think that's promising because, when we got Fasusi, it was the biggest, I think probably one of the biggest victories we've had in the recruiting trail in a long time. because he was so recruited by everyone in the nation. You know, Texas A&M, Bam. And he had every offer he wanted. So to get Fasusi, it was such a big win for our part. And then last year, I thought Fasusi did. I thought he did. He had a great year. I thought, in my opinion, as a true freshman playing in the SEC, I thought he had a great year. But the stuff we're hearing is he is going to take that next step to becoming one of the proclaimed best tackles in the nation. And I think that is so important for his season is that confidence. And he oozes out. You see the videos of him on like OU football, like Instagram, they're the little silly videos. He's always up there and he's dancing and doing that. Like I think he is just such a centerpiece to that offensive line, and he's going to be the guy that is the main focus point of the offensive line. Hey, Fasusi's on, like they got Fasusi at tackle,
Yeah.
they're going to be fine.
Yeah. And I think that I think a big question mark this year that we're going to see with the offensive line is can we run outside zone? Can we run inside zone? Can we protect, Mateer? Can we make sure Mateer's jerseys
Clean, yeah.
like that? I think if this offensive line is good and as good as we think they're gonna be, there's been a lot of hype, where I think you have to buy stock of this offensive line,
Yep.
and like I said, before, I'm a big believer.
Yep.
My hot take for the year was that this offensive line was going to get awards.
Yep.
Come into the season. I think that it's completely revamped. We
Yep.
went and got the kid from Arkansas who. He's a leader. If you watch some of his interviews, he's a leader. He said, "We're going to run the beat ball. We're going to run the ball. We're going to run the ball."
And he has experience, and I think that's something like kind of one of our takeaway points right here. It's like we've had experience. You have EPL that got good snaps. You got Fasusi. You got McCullough. I mean, you got so much. You have so much experience that has you've never had like a comfort. You're like, okay, like who's going to be our guys if one goes down? And I think that's something that's promising. And I think in the SEC, I think if you lack an offensive line, it hinders you so much. Just look at us last year. I know it didn't hinder the record and stuff necessarily, but just like we were so one dimensional,
Yeah.
And I think they're going to take us as far as they want. They're going to be our ceiling. If our offensive line is physical, dominates the line of scrimmage every game, we're going to have a very good chance of winning that football game.
I know that, I'm really big on watching podcasts. Teddy Lehman and Gabe Eichert have a lot of really good key points that from last season, their podcast earlier in the season, which earlier we weren't hitting people.
No.
We were not coming off the ball and hitting people.
Yeah.
As an offensive line, you can't be pushed back.
No.
And you got to come and hit people. And with the training and things like that, this offensive line looks yoked. I think it was EPL. A picture came out of EPL like yesterday or today. This monster for Susie. It feels like this team is just, this offensive line is going to go hit people,
And they have something to prove.
They do.
I think that's going to be their biggest takeaway this season. We are here to prove people wrong, the media wrong, the fans wrong, because every fan, you tell them what's their biggest concern. Probably 9 out of 10 people are going to say, the offensive line.
Offensive line and running game.
And I think Coach B, he's one of the, if not the best offensive line coach in the nation. I'll go to war with that. Yeah. You just look at his track record. He develops guys. So I think it is going to be their point of emphasis this year is we are going to dominate the line of scrimmage and prove everyone wrong.
And my question to you would be if we see this offensive line perform how we think they're going to perform, how well do you see this team being?
It will be a special year. I think. I really do.
I've seen some podcasts,
if they are going to be as good as we think, hope, seen, I truly do think it is going to be our year, and I don't want to sound like that homer, like, oh, it's our year again, But you do. If their ceiling is as high as we believe, our overall ceiling is going to be incredibly high.
The good thing about this offensive line, we got more years to come with this group, and so I'm really excited. Now we talked a lot about the running game. This position group, I feel like, will be so vital to the running game, where we can run outside zone, stuff like that. We've talked about that. The tight end room. Tight end room, it has been revamped. We have a monster of a coach.
Yeah, Hall of Famer, baby.
Hall of Famer, one of the greatest tight ends of our game that we love to watch.
Mhm.
Now, give me your takeaways.
So the takeaway from the tight end room, I think, past years was always a concern. It's like we can't block. You just can't.
Yeah.
No knock on the prior tight ends we've had, but like Jaron was a receiving tight end. He
Mhm.
wasn't a phenomenal blocker, and I think Jaron would also maybe say that. I don't know, but I truly do think the clear-cut tight end one from what we've seen from this fall camp is Hayden Hanson. I think the
Yes.
transfer from Florida, Hayden Hanson, he is a glorified left tackle body. He is 6'7",
Yeah.
260. He's a monster. And I think, but also, I mean, you can go ask him if you're asking a free safety to go cover him, like he can box him out. You think of like a big center in
Yeah.
basketball, he's gonna box out that. I mean, his frame is just so big. And I think you bring in Rocky Beers from Colorado State with
I've heard he's really good at he's our best receiving tight end.
yeah,
I heard that he's
and I
good at
think
his side.
that's awesome because we have to have depth at tight end. So you bring in, I think we bring in three tight ends from before. You bring Jack from Tennessee, you bring in Rocky Beers from Colorado State, you bring in Hayden from Florida. You think Hayden's a 2-year starter at Florida in the SEC? He knows what SEC ball is like, and he came out. He is an interview in media day. He's saying the SEC is the NFL. It truly is. So he's saying how competitive he knows what it's like going into Bama,
Um,
like playing the big time games. And so I think that experience with that frame he has is he is going to be our guy. It's like, hey, we need you to go block David Hicks from A&M. We need you to go block those guys. We need you to go catch the 5-yard out route. So I'm confident in that room more than anything. I think from this fall camp, it's
yeah.
inside end room.
So that being my question about this room, there was a lot of on this room. I think this one is one of the more question mark areas, just
Yeah,
because
they're all new.
they're all new. They're all
Yeah,
new. We haven't seen any of these guys play in the system, but I'm not trying to drink the Kool-Aid because
yeah,
I've gotten my heart hurt a couple of years
yeah.
on this tight end room. I think that this one with the offensive line are really the make or break.
Yep.
If we have a strong tight end room, which we kind of got really blessed with the tight end room growing up,
Yep.
with Mandrews, Calcaterra was great.
Yep.
Stogner was great, Braden Lewis.
Yep.
All those guys were great. And then we've taken a dip within our running game because the tight end room has not been up to our standards.
Yeah.
I think getting Jason Witten, I think getting all these three transfers coming in, I think it's going to be revamped,
Yeah.
And so it's a question mark right now, but I do think that it will end up being a strength. I believe that
100%.
it will be a strength, and I believe that we're going to get more production.
100%. And this kind of going into we're talking about all the rooms. This is leading into the wide receiver room. So Bryson, what from the fall camp and the media day, give me your thoughts on the wide receiver room.
So the wide receiver room is my favorite room.
Mhm.
I think it's just it's not night and day, but it's just reloaded.
Yeah,
we had a really good receivers last year: Keontae Lewis, Deion Burks, Jermichael Carter, who's back, Santana, who's back,
Yeah, Giovanni Gibson, who
Giovanni
played a lot of
Gibson.
snaps.
Yeah.
It kind of bounce out a quick little. I wish Giovanni would have stayed. At this time last year, Giovanni was a clear cut wide receiver one to us.
Yeah.
Got banged up. Not going to harp too much just since he's not here anymore. But it's just we've reloaded, and I think that's a great phrase to put on that tag for the wide receiver room is we reloaded, and we got some bullets in there.
Dude, so I think right now Terrell Harris is hurt, but great news. He was out running and competing in individual stuff. I think Terrell Harris is going to be dog.
Yep.
A name that surprisingly is really slept on is Parker Livingstone. You really haven't heard too much because Santana is the dog, is the man. Santana, you throw the ball in his area, it's going to catch.
Yep.
So I think Parker Livingstone, he's a deep ball threat.
Yep.
It is what it is. I don't think that we're talking enough about him because he's had a lot of success. Yes, he dropped some balls for Texas later in the season, but his overall production last year was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think he's going to separate himself. I think Terrell Harris, as soon as he gets healthy, is going to be good. Now, when you look at like Manny Choice and
you got like Mackenzie Allen, and then you got like Jasir Rogers. You got like the
Elijah Thomas,
yes,
Michael Carter. This receiving core,
deep.
It's
It's
deep. It's
deep,
deep.
and that's so promising because, and it just kind of proves our whole point. What we're kind of talking about the whole offense, like we got depth, and I think this is probably our deepest room we have. I know you can say it's the most guys you have, but like to throw Manny Joyce out there, he had a phenomenal spring and his fall. I mean, he's having such a good year so far from spring to fall camp, leading up to the first games.
McKenzie, I'm hearing a lot of good things about him. He's the Washington State transfer, I
Yes.
believe.
We're Jack from last episode, he didn't lose a rep. We were just talking to Jack, just about guys and stuff. And like he doesn't lose reps in one-on-one. And
Yeah.
you can see it from the videos and he's just a playmaker. Jasir Rogers, we got him to flip from Penn State late in the recruiting trail.
Yeah.
He is Spider-Man is what they call him and what he likes to call him. So like that guy is a freak of nature, and we're not saying like they're going to go out there and they're going to win us football games this year.
Yeah,
they're good. They're good depth pieces.
I think a big key thing about the receiving core previously has been we haven't had receivers to go beat someone off the line.
Yep.
If you're playing zone and stuff like that, and you can't fill a gap, or if teams are able to load the box, which we actually haven't had anybody load the box.
Yeah, I said it's in 3 high.
but seriously, we haven't had a receiving core who's been able to just go out there and take somebody.
Yep.
Santana was that guy last year. Now, this year, I feel like we've got a couple guys who, Parker Livingston can create separation in the deep ball. Terrell Harris is really good at deep ball. He's really good he's fast. He's an
he's a playmaker. Yeah.
We need this receiving core, which I think it is. They could take someone off the line.
Yep.
They could take someone off the line. I think that's the most important deal. They've kind of had it short-dipped because the running game hasn't been that good where they've been able to kind of three high,
right,
and space out a little bit, and it's put material box.
Yep.
But I think this one's the core, this core and the position group that's going to be the most exciting.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna love to watch them. I think that they're really going to help out.
I think the biggest concern about the receivers room or the receiving room, I think we just don't know who the wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. I mean, you got like we're hyping up all these guys and we're all high on these guys, but you have to solidify your wide receiver 2. You have to establish like, okay, everyone knows Satang is the one. Satang is the guy that you're going to get the ball to in the crunch time. He's our dude at receiver. We have to solidify who wide receiver 2 is. And then I think an also biggest concern is we have to be good blockers on the perimeter. Receivers. My father's the receiving coach at Tahlequah. He always says this: receivers turn first downs into touchdowns by blocking. If you are you got to be physical. You're in the SEC. You're playing big boy football. You have to be good blockers on the perimeter. If you cannot block, then it's just. I mean, I just don't see how you can be out there for that long. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm not saying none of our guys don't know how to block. I just think that is a concern and a question mark. But I am very optimistic, and I really do think our guys are going to be physical blockers, and I think our guys are going to show like, hey, this is Oklahoma football.
Exactly. And I think that's a good stopping point. We're a little bit over time. Honestly, quick audible. Would we just want to make this offensive?
Yeah.
And then we have another
defensive.
Well, let's just end it there then. I think that's a good stopping point within that. We're well over 30 minutes now. But, this can attest that we think, this is going to be a great year. We keep pumping that, pumping that. But seriously, I think this football team will show true identity. And I can't wait. By the end of September, we will know what this team is.
Yep, 100%. 100%.
We've got Georgia in that time. We also have Michigan. And so I'm excited to see it by this time. And next month, we're going to be into the thick of it. We're going to be in football. We have like 20-something days. I'm super excited, guys. Thank you all for watching and stuff like that.
Yeah, guys, thank you again. This next episode, this was the offense takeaways. Next episode, we'll be talking about defense takeaways. And then, like Bryce said, it's getting closer by each day. Make sure you guys drop down in the comments, slide up, send us questions, guys. We love interacting with you guys. All your guys' comments, all your support and stuff. We love seeing that, and we really do appreciate it from the bottom of our hearts. Again, we're not doing this for the views and the fame of this. We just love talking ball, and the more questions you guys ask and interactions we get, just the more excited we get to come film these. And so we really appreciate it. And yeah, we're getting close to it, man. It's almost here. It'll be here before we know it. So
Let's go.
hit the like button, share this video, subscribe to our channel, and we will see you guys next time. Boomer.